Good morning, everyone. My name is Luke Kennedy, and I'm so pleased to be here with you today. Coming up in English, we'll learn about how to give reasons for your opinions and exaggerate to persuade. In maths, we'll introduce order of operations, and science will be all about exploring the environment. So let's get ready to learn. Mum, everyone has this new haircut. My haircut is so bad. If I don't get a haircut like theirs, I'm going to have to walk around all day with a hat on my head to hide my horrible haircut. Does any of this sound familiar? Have you ever exaggerated something to get what you really want? It can be a very persuasive strategy. Next up, Pascal is going to share some ideas about how you can use exaggeration to add flair to your language and persuade others.
Hello. Think back to something you wanted so much. Who did you have to convince to get it? Can you remember what words you used to persuade them? Maybe you wanted a gift or a pet for a special occasion like a birthday. Did you start with words like, "You could get me a puppy for my birthday"? Maybe you were more forceful and used words like, "You must get me a puppy for my birthday." Or did you try to be more persuasive and say things like, "If I don't get a puppy for my birthday, all the puppies will be homeless"? Today, we're going to explore exaggeration and how it can be used to persuade. First of all, what does it mean to persuade? Remember, when we persuade someone, we try and convince them to do something or agree with our point of view. I am sure you are very good at persuading your family and friends. How do you do this? Take a moment to think of all the ways you convince others to agree with you or do what you want. Without even knowing it, you probably use persuasive language devices. Persuasive language devices are used by writers and speakers to convince others to believe a particular point of view. Persuasive language devices include asking questions, making appeals to the audience, addressing the reader directly, exaggerating, and giving examples. So whenever we write or speak, we are making decisions about the words or language we use. When we want to persuade someone or convince someone of our point of view, we can choose words that are stronger and words that are more forceful. Have you ever heard of a cline? A cline is like a ladder that shows the changes in the strength in the meaning of words. We can use a cline to make our writing more forceful and add flair to our writing. The strength of the words increases as they are listed along the cline. Look at this sentence. I feel all right today. The word all right is not a very strong word. It does not tell us a lot about how the person feels. Let's look at the words on the cline. We go from all right to glad to happy, then excited and overjoyed. Every word along the cline becomes stronger in feeling and more forceful. Using a stronger word gives our writing more impact because it gives our audience a clearer idea of our meaning. The sentence, "I feel all right today," does not sound as meaningful as "I feel excited today." Changing all right to another word on the cline gives our writing more impact. Let's look at another sentence. We had an okay breakfast at Tim's restaurant. Let's look at the words on the cline and see if we can use a more meaningful word to be more persuasive. The word okay sits on the left of our cline, and moving along we have awful, then tasteless, disgusting, and inedible. These are clearly negative words. How could we change our sentence, "We had an okay breakfast at Tim's restaurant," to persuade people that they shouldn't eat there? What words could we use? Think about which negative word on our cline you would put in your sentence. You may have said the most persuasive word to convince people not to go is inedible or disgusting. We had an inedible breakfast at Tim's restaurant. This is a fairly strong statement that helps us to persuade our reader or listener. So we can have an impact on our audience by using powerful language, but we can also use exaggeration to help persuade our audience and give our writing impact. Exaggeration means to overstate abilities or qualities. It's a way of describing something to make it sound or seem like it's better or worse than it really is. If I was talking to my family about a party that was coming up and I really wanted to go, I might try and persuade them to let me go by exaggerating how fun and important this party was. I might say something like, "This is the most important party of my life. I have to go. If I don't, my friends will never talk to me again." I'm doing a fair bit of exaggeration here. Not going to the party will probably not cause my friends to never talk to me again, but I can use exaggeration to try and persuade my family that I should be allowed to go. Do you know what texts are really good at using exaggeration to try and persuade you to do something? Advertisements. Advertisements use forceful language and exaggeration to try and convince you to buy their products. For example, an advertisement for a cleaning product might tell you something like, "You've tried the rest, now try the best. Our product removes every known stain in the world, leaving your benches and floors 100% stain-free." The word best is a strong word that tries to convince you to buy the product. After all, who wouldn't want to buy the best stain remover on the market? Saying the product cleans every known stain in the world is probably an exaggeration. It might clean most stains, but all of them? This is a way to oversell what the product can do to convince you to buy it. Using these devices can help add flair to our writing and make it more persuasive. Take a moment to reflect. Think about the last time you tried to persuade someone. Did you use exaggeration or forceful language? How successful were you? Now, think of an advertisement for something you have seen recently. It could be on television, or it could be in a magazine or newspaper. What made this advertisement persuasive? What sort of language was used? Was it informative? Did it tell you that their product was just all right and that you might like it? Did it tell you that it was just one of the hundreds of similar products on the market? Probably not. This would not be very persuasive. The advertisement may have used powerful language and exaggeration to make you want to buy the product. I'm going to leave you with a challenge today. Try using your new understanding of persuasive language devices and look for examples of exaggeration and forceful language in advertising. When you find examples, think about how the advertising campaign used these techniques to try and convince the audience to buy their product. Did it work? That's all for today. See you next time.
You'll need some materials for this next lesson, so perhaps you can find 3 pieces of paper, some scissors and some glue while I explain what it's all about. Juice TV is an Australian-first entertainment initiative that benefits the health and well-being of sick kids and their families in hospital, one episode at a time. The program began in January 2015 at the Queensland Children's Hospital. Since then, it has touched the lives of more than 3,500 patients and their families by improving the hospital journey, creating a unique way for them to engage and communicate with one another. Juice TV is a show made by the kids in hospital for the kids in hospital. And today, Kobe is going to show us some origami, which is the Japanese art of folding paper. The word origami comes from the Japanese word ori, which means folding, and kami, which means paper. So let's get started.
Today we are making an origami bookmark, and this is what we'll be making for the origami. Step 1 is to grab your piece of paper and fold it in half so it looks like a sandwich. And then after that step, you have to open it up and then fold it the other way so the line goes straight down when you fold it. And then you take this top corner and you fold it down to the bottom crease line. and then you take the bottom left corner, fold it up to the top corner, and then crease to the side, and then do it on the other side. And then you open it up and take this right corner and put it in the middle crease line, like this, and then do it on the other side. And then you take this flap and then open this little bit up and then tuck it in there and then crease it and do it on the other side. Now you have to take your scissors and then grab a light blue piece of paper and fold it in half like it's a half of a square. Crease the bottom, and then you grab your scissors and make it like an ear shape. Like this. Then you put those down and then grab a pink piece of paper and then cut two smaller, fold it in half. And do two smaller ears. Like this. And then you need to grab your glue stick, pop the lid, and then glue the pink bits onto the blue bit in the middle. And then get your glue stick, glue the bottom of the ear and then stick it where it is, like this, and then do it on the other ear. And the ears will finish like this. And then you grab which colour you want, I like blue, and then you make like little tiny lines. This. And then glue them on this, the ears, like this, the eyes are like, and then you make the nose out of pink pieces of paper, it's like a corner. Grab another pink piece of paper. Now this step is going to be the tail. And then like a little tail shape. So down the bottom is going to be thick. And then get thinner. So it kind of looks like a little tail. And you glue a little bit on the bottom. And then glue it on the back. Thanks for watching my video on Juice TV.
Thank you, Kobe. That was clever. I did have to watch him twice to get the hang of it, but what do you reckon? Now, I wonder, how often do you cook at home? Have you ever followed a recipe where you need to measure out the ingredients? Sometimes it can be tricky to find half a cup of milk or a quarter of a teaspoon of vanilla. So it's helpful to have the labelled measuring spoons and cups to make sure that we bake the perfect cake or biscuit, right? But what about when it comes to cutting the cake? We definitely want to make sure that we cut the pieces equally for everyone at home. So here's Linda to help us out with sharing things equally.
Hi there. I overheard a boy complaining to his dad the other day. "It's not fair. You got the bigger half of our chocolate," he said. The little boy was right, and he was wrong at the same time. He was right that it wasn't fair, but he was wrong to call them halves. When something is split into two parts, they can only be called halves if both parts are the same size. Otherwise, we just call them two parts. There's a few ways to check if parts are equal or not. Let's look at a few here. How can I tell if this toast is cut in half? Well, I can put one piece on top of the other to see if they're the same size. That's how I can tell they're halves. Each part is the same size. Here's some cordial. I'm going to share it between 4 people. Now I can see if everybody gets the same amount. A little bit lighter. Here is some cordial. I'm going to share it between 4 people. Now I can see each person gets the same amount. Here's a length of rope. How can I divide it into 8 equal parts? I can put a peg at halfway and get 2 pieces. Then I can put a peg halfway between each piece and I'll have 4 pieces. Then I can place a peg halfway between each of the already placed pegs. And finally, the 2 sections at the ends. Now hopefully you'll be able to see that my rope has been split into 8 equal parts. Now, let's see if we can do the same thing with some paper. Let me fold this sheet of paper in half. I can see that the halves are the same size. Now how many parts will I get if I fold it in half again? Let's try. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 4 equal parts. These parts are called quarters or fourths. Now I'm going to fold it in half again. How many parts do you think I'll end up with this time? Let's check. I have 8 equal parts. They're called eighths. As I keep folding to get more parts, the size of each part is getting smaller. Here's an important skill to have, sharing out a pizza equally at a pizza party. Here are 14 different slices of pizza. They aren't all the same size. I can rearrange the slices to see how the pizzas were cut. There's the first one. There's the second one. And there's the third one. So I can see that this pizza was cut in halves, this pizza was cut in quarters, and this pizza was cut in eighths. Can you see that 2 quarters are the same size as 1 half? And can you also see that 2 eighths are the same as 1 quarter? I can also make 1 quarter of the pizza from 2 eighths of the pizza because 1 quarter and 2 eighths are the same size. So today we described equal-sized parts of a whole using halves, quarters or fourths, and eighths. We talked about sharing equal parts of a whole. You know what? It doesn't really matter if someone else gets a bigger piece of cake, right? That's all from me today. I'll see you next time.
I hope you found out some great information about unit fractions in maths. Now it's time for a very special health message.
Hi, Simon Patmore here, Australian Paralympic snowboarder. Life is different at the moment, and we're here, stuck at home. What to do? It can get a little bit of emotion. You can get angry, happy, sad all of a sudden. But that's okay, because those are normal feelings. What you have to do is get up and get moving. Do the things that you love to do. Call a friend, talk to a family member, do some puzzles. Me, personally, I like to do some video games or go and do some exercises in the backyard. These are the things that make me happy, and I can enjoy the day and go on to the next one. And remember, there's plenty of things out there that can make you happy.
Have you ever visited the Great Barrier Reef? Perhaps you've snorkeled on parts of the reef or visited one of its many islands. The reef is truly beautiful and it has so many different living things. Today in Science, we're going to be exploring different environments, like the reef, and the environmental factors that influence living things. Here's Jen.
Australia is a unique environment with over 1 million different types of living things. It has some of the oldest land on Earth. And while there are many rainforests, it is the driest inhabited continent on the planet. However, we are also fortunate to have the largest coral reef system in the entire world, right off the coast of Queensland. The Great Barrier Reef stretches over 2,300 kilometres and contains over 900 islands. It has an abundance of marine life, including 1,600 different types of fish, 600 types of coral, 200 types of birds, 30 types of whales and dolphins, and 6 different types of turtles. In fact, the reef is a marine park and World Heritage Area, which means that it is a protected recreational area, valued all over the world for its huge range of unique species. We call this the biodiversity of the environment. It is important to understand the biodiversity of the reef, particularly how living things or organisms interact with their environment. Once we can understand these interactions, we can better protect the reef from environmental and human damage. Scientists who study the relationships of living things with their environment are called ecologists. Today, we are going to work like ecologists and explore some of the different things that make up an environment. When we examine an environment, we look closely at all the living and non-living features of an area, like a reef or a desert. If we examined the Great Barrier Reef, the living factors include corals and fish, while non-living factors are things like water quality, light, and temperature. These non-living factors affect the growth and survival of living things. Now, plants and animals usually live in a part of their environment called a habitat. This is the home of the organism, where it has shelter, food, water, and space to thrive. For example, the Great Barrier Reef has many different habitats, including different types of reefs, seagrass beds, and mangroves. Let's practice identifying the living and non-living factors in a rainforest and desert habitat. Let's use the images to guide our thinking. What types of plants and animals might live in the rainforest? We can see that the rainforest habitat has tall trees and ferns, but it might also have frogs, butterflies, birds, and snakes. Now let's take a look at the desert habitat. This habitat contains shrubs and trees, as well as short grasses and wallabies, but it might also have insects, dingoes, camels, and cacti. So each habitat has different types of organisms that live there. I wonder why this is. Let's consider the non-living factors in each of these habitats to find out more. Let's start with the rainforest. We can see that the rainforest has some sunlight streaming through the trees. It does look pretty dark though at the ground, so it must be cooler there. There must also be plenty of water around for the trees to be so big and green. What about the desert? There is definitely plenty of sunlight here, but there doesn't look like there's much water, and it must be pretty warm because there aren't many grasses or trees. So each habitat has different amounts of sunlight, water, and heat. Plants and animals can only survive in an environment if the conditions suit their particular needs. This is why we see different animals in different habitats. Now, what do you think might happen if we change the amount of non-living factors a habitat experiences? For instance, what would happen if our desert experienced too much water through rainfall? If there was too much rain in the desert, it could flood, and this would cover all of the smaller grasses and wash away some of the important nutrients in the soil. This would mean some plants may not survive as they are covered by water, or that they aren't able to receive the nutrients from the ground to grow. It would also impact animals. Animals would firstly have to find a drier place to live. And if they rely on plants for food, they may have to travel great distances to find more food. This would change the biodiversity of the habitat. Now, what do you think might happen if the desert did not receive enough rain? The desert would become a lot drier for all plants, and they would struggle to grow. It would also be hard for the animals to find water, and if they rely on plants to survive, they may again have to travel great distances in a very harsh environment. So the biodiversity would change again. So non-living factors like water, sunlight, and temperature all have a big impact on living things in an environment. This is why when we think about protecting environments like the Great Barrier Reef, we must consider both the living and non-living factors. Okay, let's recap what we've learnt today. We now know that an environment is the conditions of an area, and it includes living and non-living things. Our habitat is the home of an organism, which provides shelter, food, and water. An ecologist is a scientist who studies the relationships between living and non-living things. And it is important to study ecology so that we can protect the environment. Now it's your turn. This afternoon, why don't you draw a picture of one of your favourite natural environments, like the beach, river, desert, or bush, and identify living and non-living factors. Perhaps you could use a colour code to show the difference. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
I promise that I'm not exaggerating when I say that we have been learning a lot this morning. And we've picked up some new skills. So it's time to give our brains a break and let our bodies take over. If you stand up and get ready for some movement drills, I'll tell Victoria that it's her time to join the show. Bye for now.
G'day guys, I'm Thomas Berry from the Brisbane Lions, and I'm stuck at home like you. This is what I do to stay fit and healthy. First up, we're going to do squats. So bend the knees, down to the ground. 2, 3. Righto, next up, we're going to do mountain climbers, guys. So we're going to pretend we're climbing up the mountain, and I want a bit of speed and energy here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Righto, I did 10, you can do more. Last up, we're going to do push-ups, guys. This one, we're going to get to the ground, chest to the ground. 1, 2, 3. Snatch things up, we'll do this one. Whoa, how good's that? Righto, that's it from me, guys. I'm gonna leave you to have a crack at that, so enjoy.